Welcome back to the Norse Benchwarmers podcast. I'm your host, Colton Smith, here joined by producer Josh Northcutt and director Garrett Jordan. Fellas, I would ask you how your weekend was, like I typically do. However, I know how it was. It ended in pain. No matter how well it was going, it ended in glorious pain. We have a good slate though. We're going to talk some NKU basketball. There may be some mention of the Australian Open wrapping up, may or may not. And then college basketball, of course. Slow week, but still very interesting stuff around the league, or around the nation. And then wrapping up with National Football League.
I mean, we don't have to talk about it.
We don't?
I mean, we don't have to.
Really?
I mean,
I said last night I didn't want to, and you're like, you have to talk about it.
I mean, yeah.
I would have gladly just turned it into, anything. We could have talked about baseball, Josh. I would have happily talked about baseball instead of what we have to talk
Baseball's
about.
Baseball's a little
today.
bit farther away. No, we've got to talk about it. Just very quickly.
What?
Colton Yap Sesh instead of podcast?
Colton Yap Sesh has called my life. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about some NKU basketball. Still a rough week. Women's basketball finally got a win. I don't know why I said finally, but they stopped this losing streak from occurring. Only lost 2 in a row, and then won over Milwaukee 66-62. They could not sweep Wisconsin, though. Fell to Green Bay, who is the second best team in the Horizon League. Has been for quite a few years. Great program up there in Green Bay. Can't say the same about the men. 64-56, though. And it was really kind of a balanced effort, I felt like, at least offensively in most of the games. Versus Milwaukee, the starters combined for 55 of the 66 points. Josh, you were at least one of those games, right?
I was at the Green Bay game. I did not get to go to the Milwaukee game. Had some stuff going on at home. Mm-hmm. But as for the Green Bay game, obviously a tough loss, but it's one of those losses you can kind of build on. Hanging around with a very, very good Green Bay team that could possibly win the Horizon League.
I mean, they're second right now. So.
Correct. So I don't hate that loss. It was one of those things. They hung around all game. They battled back at one point, cut the lead, I want to say down to like 4 or 5, and then just talent kind of won out. Green Bay couldn't miss from 3. That's just kind of what happened.
Macy Blevins led the way with 16 points. Hallie had a double-double, 21-11. And I just feel like there's just more firepower on the other side. They just more experienced, and give it a couple years, and this could be a battle for the top of the Horizon League. Who knows?
I do want to give a shout-out to Abby Walterman. She
Absolutely.
had an excellent game. 11 points, 9 rebounds.
Absolutely.
And just her toughness, she was just almost like demanding the ball in the paint in the second half. Like, just keep feeding me. Made some very, very crucial shots to keep NKU in the game. So a special shout-out to her.
Yeah, great stuff. Is there anything else you want to talk about over the women's basketball, or?
Just kind of like you mentioned earlier in the year, they're playing better each and every week. They may not be seeing the results that Coach Hand wants, but they're very impressive. I'm looking forward to this week versus Detroit Mercy and Wright State, where I'll be on the call Wednesday on YouTube via the Detroit Mercy game. Yeah,
be sure to tune in. Detroit Mercy. They're doing pretty good this year in the women's basketball, so that'll be a tough one. Looking at the standings, they're all very like the middle is very close, within a game or two of each other, and realistically, NKU with a winning streak here. Now that's a big if, getting that winning streak. But if they are able to get on that win streak, they could very well find themselves as high as 4th in the standings. So
yeah, I'm gonna say that Detroit Mercy game, they are currently sitting in 4th. Yeah. So if you can win that game, protect quote unquote home court, never know what happens.
Absolutely. Exciting to see how it all plays out, but let's talk about NKU men's basketball. Only one game this week, got some extra rest, and all of that just to lose by 20 to Milwaukee. There's really only one thing I have to say about this game. 3 of 21 from 3-point. It's been the issue that I have been pointing to earlier. I thought it kind of shifted away. They seem to be hitting their threes better, and there was some other stuff. But that was the difference here, as Milwaukee went 9 of 18, 50% from 3, 50, 14. That's quite a difference. And that's also an 18-point difference. So there's 18 of the 20 points you're missing there in that game. It's pretty simple. This team needs to figure out how to get the ball through the hoop, whether it be inside, whether it be outside. However they can efficiently do that, they'll be back in the conversation. But they are just absolutely struggling with that.
The defense is a little bit concerned too, though. I mean, I know it's only 79 points, but they gave up almost 60% from the field in field goal percentage, and like you said, 50% from the 3-point line. You can't do that and win games. You got to play some kind of defense, and this just doesn't seem exactly like a normal Coach Horn type team.
Not what you would expect at all. But I mean, who they got coming up this next week?
Let's give me 1 second.
I apologize. I usually have this written down, but for some reason I did not end up writing that down. So that's my bad on that.
Typical you. Yeah, relying on me. It's fine.
Yeah.
They actually go to Detroit Mercy, and then they have Oakland on Saturday.
So Detroit Mercy
on the road.
Detroit Mercy could be a good bounce back game. They're going to have to be ready for that at Oakland. Oakland had a pretty good game against them. So if they want to get revenge, I could see it. I could see Detroit Mercy getting that confidence back up. They haven't been the best in the Horizon League. They're better than they were last year by far. But, don't sleep on Detroit for sure, especially with how we've been playing. But if we can get that win, hopefully that can get the confidence back up to hopefully get that revenge game at Oakland. And that'll be big. It'll be really big to get these next 2 wins and maybe launch us back into some momentum to finish up the season.
One thing I wanted to mention on Friday, it was some kind of award for the baseball. They got their Horizon League rings for winning their championship last year. And then also they did like a GPA type thing of all the players if they had like above a 3.0 or 3.5, kind of gave them the awards. The crowd was actually pretty packed for a Friday. It was really nice to see like fans come out, and just that's where it gets disappointing with the end result. So
yeah. Well, let's go ahead and move along to our winners circle. Excited for baseball season though. Really excited for baseball season. I think we got a good team, good program.
Oh, absolutely.
Things are looking up.
I mean, we obviously had that interview with Dizzy, which was probably my most fun that we've had over the last year of doing this, which, by the way, we have officially been doing this for a year.
That is true.
Alex pointed this out to me, which was pretty impressive. I was like, man, that the year's gone very, very quickly.
Yeah, we're a long way from that year ago. Very far away. We ought to do a video reacting to that first podcast.
I don't know if I want to do that.
I think it'd be very interesting to go back and look. We'll have to see about that down the line here. But yeah, it's been an awesome year. Obviously, Ben also a part of it as well, and we've all had a great time on this podcast, and happy to be able to keep it going here for the foreseeable future. But like I said, going into our winner's circle, I mentioned we want to talk about some tennis. I got a little hint on Garrett's winner's circle this week, so Garrett, I'll go ahead and let you start with your winner's circle, as it is kind of recapping that Australian Open.
Yeah, sure. So first, I want to shout out and congratulate Yannick Sinner on his third major victory, his second Australian Open in his young career. I'm sure there'll be many more of those to come. And also, congrats to Sasha Zverev for his performance. Really tough to come back from that ankle injury he had a couple years ago. As someone that's dealt with ankle injuries in the past, I know how that is.
Sasha?
Yeah. It's Alexander Sasha Zverev. It's his nickname in his home country.
Okay.
So
my fault.
No, you're fine. But yeah, congrats to both of those guys for a well-played tournament. But my winner's circle tonight is going to go to one Madison Keys, first American to win the Australian Open since 2020 when Sophia Kenin did it in her miracle run. Keys started her run earlier in Adelaide where she defeated Jess Pegula, another American, at a 500 level event, and she wrapped up her trip down under after this victory with a 14-1 record in Australia, which is very impressive. She last made a major final in 2017 where she lost to fellow American Sloane Stephens in the U.S. Open. And on her trip to winning this Open, she beat arguably the two best tennis players in the women's game right now in Iga Swiatek and Aryna Sabalenka. So incredible fortitude shown here in this tournament, and Keys will leave Australia with a WTA ranking of 7. So congrats, Maddie Keys. Welcome back to the winner's circle.
You want to talk about a season that really means more than anything? It's probably the tennis season, because going through and your season's kind of measured by how many titles you win, right? Whether it be obviously the major titles or the big ones and the other ones around there. And I just got to thinking, like, you're going through like a week, 2 weeks of tournaments just to get that title. I don't know, kind of a weird take that I just had that kind of thought in my head.
When you think about it, when an open it's a 128 player draw, right? So when you do the math to win the tournament, you have to win 6 matches in a row in about the span of a week and a half. And with the majors, more specifically on the men's side, where they play best of 5 sets, those 5-setters that go 4 and 5 hours can be incredibly brutal on these players. Mm-hmm. So the season is incredibly long for them, and so to be able to keep this level of play up throughout the whole season is something that is very impressive and should not be overlooked.
Yeah, I always wonder why I didn't get into tennis sooner. I mean, it's really March Madness, but every month or so. So, anyways, moving along, Josh, who do you got winning?
Yeah, should have gave it to him last week. We're going to give him to him this week. It's for Ichiro, CC Sabathia, and Billy Wagner going to the MLB Hall of Fame. And the first ever loser of the week. Loser circle, I believe me and Garrett are going to agree on this one.
Of course, Josh will be the one to start this.
He's the one who came up with is the one beat. No, this was actually Garrett's idea. I'm just going to go ahead and say it since we got a little extra time. It's for the one beat writer who decided not to vote for Ichiro Suzuki into the Hall of Fame. I want to know who it is.
Fire.
Ichiro wants to know who it is. And he just wants to sit down and have a nice little conversation with a beer. And
just want to talk.
Yeah, just wants to talk.
I just want to talk.
He just wants to talk. But yeah, no, absolutely 3 names very well worth. Wagner in his last opportunity, year 10 to get in. CC, I want to say, was in year 5 or 6. And then Ichiro, first ballot Hall of Famer, well deserved. Greatest pure hitter of our lifetime by far. And the biggest Japanese name who opened the door for the likes of Otani and every other player who's now come over into Japan from Japan to sign with the Dodgers.
Don't forget his career began at age 27, and then he played for 20 years after that. So he retired at like 47.
Yeah, no, that's what some people forget is like his prime was obviously here, but there was 10 years over in Japan that he played. If he totals up those hits, he's easily the hit king of baseball. Very, very special player. There was just something about being around during that Ichiro movement of just how expanded the game got, and the crowds, like just the Japanese fan base, just fell in love with it because it was I won't say simple flight, but still simple flight from Japan over to Seattle to watch the man play.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, my winner's circle is NASCAR fans, as there is some racing back this week. Not regular season racing, but hey, the boys are going to be back. They're going to be racing in the Clash at Bowman Coliseum, which is essentially like an already made Coliseum, like the Coliseum. Wait. What did I say? Bowman Gray Stadium.
Yes.
What did I say Coliseum for? Oh, that's where it was. Was that the Coliseum?
Year,
yeah. So yeah, it's kind of like the Coliseum, but it's already just pre-made in terms of size and probably how it'll race. But very interesting. It's a very fun track. Always fun to see some late models and stuff there. So glad to see that track getting some nods, getting some praise, and we'll be on Sunday 8 p.m. on Fox. So excited to see how that all plays out. But we ready to move along to some college basketball here?
Yep. Go ahead and go on your spiel.
Well, I guess I will go ahead and go on my spiel with the top 25 movers. Not as many as last week, but still more than you would think. Houston is up 1 after their win over Kansas to number 6. Michigan State is up 1 to 7. Tennessee is down 2 to 8 after their loss against who did they lose to? Why am I blanking on this? Oh, Auburn. Duh. Marquette up 1 to 9. Purdue, despite losing to Ohio State, goes up 1 to 10. Kansas up 1 to 11, even after losing to Houston. That's because Kentucky fell 3 spots to number 12 after their loss to Vandy. St. John's up 5 to 15. Oregon down 1 to 16. Wisconsin is up 1 after beating the crap out of Nebraska, up to number 17. Illinois down 1 to 18. Memphis is up 5 to 19. Missouri is up 2 to 20. And then Louisville up 4 to 21. Very convincing win this week. And then Actually, there's 2 more. Ole Miss down 7 after dropping 2 games to 23, and UConn down 4 to number 25. Personally, they shouldn't even be in the top 25, but the next 2 closest votes were Michigan and Maryland, and I kind of see why they would get the nod over those 2. But welcome, number 22, Texas Tech, and number 24, college sports powerhouse, the Vanderbilt Commodores.
Ah, yes.
Hey, they're already great at baseball. Football program looks up. Basketball program looks up. Do not sleep on the Commodores. Anyways, what a week, huh?
Yeah, no, like I said last week, college football is taking over the world now. We're kind of wrapping down on football. So night in, night out, there's some really, really good games, especially in the SEC.
Especially in the SEC.
Especially in the SEC. My buddy told me about a joke, though, people were making that because obviously we're in conference play. Yeah. So somebody said, man, that ESPN is just hyping up a average conference. The SEC has only been doing 500 over the last week. Well, because they're only playing the SEC teams.
Yes, of course.
And SEC fans were flipping out like, oh, my God. I was like, the joke just went over your head. It's okay.
Jokes often go over SEC fans' head. Look at Garrett. Numbers. So let's go ahead and go through this week. I'll start with Tuesday, and we can stop and see some ones you want to talk about. What happened?
Saw that coming like a nuclear warhead.
Number 6, Tennessee defeats 14 Mississippi State. These are based on last week's rankings. 68-56. Ohio State upsets Purdue 73-70. UCLA upsets number 18 Wisconsin 85-83. Texas humbles number 22 Missouri 61-53. Arizona State starts a tumble for West Virginia, who was ranked 23rd, 65-57. And then number 25 Louisville knocks the doors off of what I thought to be a solid SMU team, 98-73. Any games in there that you want to talk about? There's obviously one I'd like to, but anything you got there?
Obviously the Ohio State Purdue one. I have to ask what happened because I mean, in the beginning we hyped up Ohio State pretty crazy. I said they were a sleeper to win the Big Ten. Hasn't exactly flourished that way into the season. So what happened to your boys?
So you may or may not have noticed that they went on a West Coast swing the week before. They got back from that West Coast swing about Sunday afternoon, and then they turned around and had to play a game on Tuesday. 1.5 days of rest. I know Mick Cronin.
He's had to play 5 games in that time period on the East Coast, Colton.
What?
Quit complaining.
Okay. Anyways, so, a day and a half off, even if it wasn't a West Coast swing, that's just kind of a rough thing to have to do. So you have that. So they were great to start, and you could just tell, kind of their legs fell out from under them. But also 11 threes from Ohio State. Micah Parrish could not miss 22 points, a lot of timely shots, and yeah, we were flat-footed in the second half, and Ohio State was hot. They needed this win a lot more than we did. They wanted this win probably more than we did. So, they got that win, and we all know what happened after that. We'll talk about that on Friday. But is there any other ones? I kind of wanted to mention UCLA upsetting Wisconsin. Seems like they're finally back on their home turf, so they're kind of turning that corner. And you can definitely see, I'm not discounting Mick Cronin, what's going on there. I think it is pretty insane what they have to do, and it's definitely hard on the team. All I'm saying is a day and a half of rest isn't much better either. So that doesn't help. And so now Purdue gets a week off, so that's nice. But Texas kind of started Texas is another one to talk about because of their game on Saturday, as they kind of started that run with that win over Missouri. But we were good to move on to Wednesday?
Yeah, definitely. There's a game I want to talk about Wednesday.
So. All right, I'll let you take it. Number 5, Florida survives South Carolina just by 1 point, 70-69. Texas A&M was 13, edges out number 16 Ole Miss 63-62, and then Maryland upsets number 17 Illinois 91-70. Those two now have the same conference record of 5-4. What game did you want to talk about? That
Not mentioned in that group, but Houston holding a Division I Power 5 school to 36 points.
Yeah, I did see that game. I didn't.
Houston's defense.
I was trying not to embarrass the other. We'll give him one name. Yeah, no, you didn't have to do him like that.
But no, wow, 36 points. You played 40 minutes of basketball.
So they were scoring, if my math serves me correctly, maybe not. They were scoring under a point a minute.
Yeah. Houston just seems like they're going under the radar this year. They haven't been talked about in the Big 12 because it's been Kansas and obviously all their players returning, and Bill Self's personality carries the weight. It's been West Virginia surprising a lot of people. It's Iowa State just being Iowa State, which we both were very high on them. But just Houston's just hanging around, doing what they do, play defense, score when in big opportunities. They're now 15-3 on the year and 7-0 in the Big 12.
I think they're 8-0 now that they beat Kansas,
okay. Yeah,
right?
sorry. Yeah, that would have been. Yeah, my bad. I was going off of.
All good. See, here's my rebuttal to that. I feel like they're going under the radar, and this kind of changed with the Kansas game. But I remember during the Kansas game, one of the announcers pointed this out too, that they're kind of going under the radar because of some of their early losses. But the thing about Houston is I don't see any reason why this team is any different than the last 5 iterations of Houston, you know?
I would agree.
Like, I feel like they will be in every game, but their opponent, other than obviously Utah and like some other inferior opponents, their opponent will always be in the game too. So that always just opens up the door for that Sweet 16 loss or even an earlier loss. So I agree that they're going under the radar. They should be talked. They're definitely being talked more about now that they beat Kansas. But I still think it's warranted to not give them the same kind of praise that we give Iowa State. I think Kansas is overrated, but of Iowa State or other teams that are given the highlight. But I kind of see it. I get that.
I went back and just looked at their losses. Auburn by 5 points, Alabama by 5 points, and San Diego State by 3 points.
Which is
Those aren't horrible losses, obviously.
San Diego State's aged worse than you would think.
Okay.
They're all right. They're a good Mountain West team, but they're not the San Diego State that you've known.
I gotcha.
But
yeah. Obviously the Auburn and Alabama losses are not bad.
Absolutely, and that's the thing is Houston will always be in a game with a great team, but it's just like they'll also always be in a game with a great team. So it's just they always have that door open. So I do think this could be a different team, but it's just kind of I don't know. I have to see it to believe it.
I'm gonna say I did the whole typical look ahead. And February 22nd they will play Iowa State at home. So have that one circled on the schedule.
That was an outstanding game. That's when I kind of fell in love with Iowa State last year was that game. Let's talk about Friday real quick before we get to Saturday. Number 21, Michigan. Josh, you like that school, don't you?
I don't know what you're talking about.
They don't have a basketball program, I would say to you. Well, Purdue wasn't too thrilled with their loss against Ohio State. So they took it upon themselves to punish Michigan. I think that's the best way to put it. 91-64. I'm just surprised they got any top 25 votes. No, I'm just kidding. They're a great team. They just ran into. But I'm just saying we gave Nebraska the same treatment as we did Michigan. So that's just an interesting comparison to think about.
Playing a team after a loss at home with the talent that Purdue has, it can be expected. The Michigan team is still growing under Dusty. They're still trying to bond, figure out who they are.
You are 100% right.
They're okay.
I just like being that guy.
I know, and that's fair. You deserve to be that guy. Your team came out, and they put very politely. They put an ass whooping.
They sure did.
They nearly doubled. They basically doubled up on them on the first half, 51-26.
They sure did. Beautiful game to watch. Gus Johnson on the call. He better be on the call this Friday.
He should be in the call always.
He should just be on every call ever. But it was a little disappointing, though, because whoever was working on that broadcast, they weren't prepared for Purdue. They weren't prepared for Mackey Arena.
Yeah.
Because you couldn't hear Gus Johnson. Unless he was yelling, you could not hear Gus Johnson. So they either had they definitely had the ambient mics. I'm using, I guess, terms maybe above the average, but
We just lost viewers. Good job.
yeah, my fault. The ambient mics were definitely too high, but then you also maybe it was too. I don't know. All I know is I could hardly hear Gus Johnson. That is the last person I would expect to have trouble hearing. Anyways, great job, Purdue. Moving on to Saturday, let's start with number 1 Auburn winning a thriller over number 6 Tennessee. Johnny Broom returns.
He's back.
He is so back, and he is National Player of the Year, right?
I mean, I've called it in the beginning of the year, did I not?
16-13 in his first game back, a double-double.
4 blocks.
4 blocks. My apologies. Not sure how that didn't make it on the notes. I hate notes, but it helps me keep things in order. But, what did you see from this game?
You described it perfectly. It was a rock throwing fest. Neither team could really find the basket, which is surprising when it came to these two teams because, they're
surprising coming to Auburn.
Yeah,
but
they can score with the best team. So little on that, but Auburn, man, it's something about this team that I'm telling you, I'm buying. Bruce Pearl is gonna cut down the nets, and it's gonna be them versus Duke in the national championship, and I'm gonna cheer my ass off for Johnny Broom and the boys.
As will I.
War Eagle, baby.
War Eagle. It just kind of went as you would expect. I feel like Auburn did what you would expect Auburn to do, and Tennessee did what Tennessee expected you to do, and kept the game close. And yeah, it was great stuff. But I would go ahead and move on down to our other big matchup, the game before that, the double OT thriller, which I think ESPN took over coverage like with 8 minutes or so to go in the first half of the Auburn Tennessee game. But yeah, I think it was like 5-12. Anyways, doesn't matter. But some stats to throw out from this game: Milos Uzan, 17 points, 9 rebounds, 9 assists. Juwan Roberts is getting a lot of the credit though for his clutch play: 24 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists. And I wanted to give a shout out though to a Kansas freshman out of Kokomo, Indiana, Flory Benduga, I believe is how it's pronounced.
Yes.
He replaced KJ Adams, who had been out.
Was going to be a UC Bearcat until the big boys got involved.
Yeah, I do remember you telling me about that now. But yeah, he replaced KJ Adams, who had an injury, and he led the team with scoring with 19 points, 7 rebounds. The announcers made this great point that now this is a game of confidence for him, that you need to go to him for a stretch in the tournament or something. That's going to be a great turnaround. But this was all around a great, thrilling game. I won't lie. I kind of thought Kansas had it at one point and turned off my TV.
Yeah.
And then I was pleasantly surprised to see and had to rewatch the replay of what happened.
I may or may not have had some money on this game, and I may not have had money on Kansas.
Josh had money on a game? What?
And I had money on Kansas, may or may not have. And I turned it off thinking I won. And I went to look at my bank account. I didn't win. I hate Houston.
And that's the one thing about Houston, and if you were going to give me if I were to give a reason why I think it could be different this year, it's that there's 2 instances now. They were down 10 points to UCF. They were down quite a bit in this game, not quite a bit, but they were down really late in this game. They kind of have that oomph that I don't think they typically do. They're able to find that offense to get to overtime and win in overtime or whatever. So yeah, I could see the argument. Moving around another Big 12 game here, I just want to briefly mention number 3 Iowa State comes back to beat ASU 76-61. They trailed by 7 at half. Curtis Jones, this guy was sitting on the bench for most of the start of the year. Not sitting on the bench, he played, but he was like 6th man. And then there was an injury that befell one of the starters, and he started his career out in Buffalo, and now he's looking like possibly Big 12 Player of the Year. He's mine. But is there anything you had on that, or?
No, I didn't get a track on any of these games. Okay. I'm working, obviously, the NKU game on Saturday. So.
Of course. Georgia, kind of been a darling of us for the last couple of weeks. Gets wrecked by Florida by 30. 2-5 in SEC play. That's not going to look too good come tournament time. So I said they might be a second weekend team, and I still kind of stand by that.
That Florida team is good.
They are. They're a pretty solid team. They got a good team down there in Gainesville. Gainesville, yeah.
That is not the response I would have heard from the 30-point score difference of them. But it looked like it was a little bit of an upset special there in the SEC for 2 other games.
I was going to talk about it. Vandy squeaks out a home win over number 9 Kentucky, 74-69. Vandy may be my second favorite college, folks. I'm loving it. I'm loving every second of this right now.
It's just the colors. Don't lie to people.
Just likes black and gold, man.
I just love black and gold, I suppose. I'm gonna. Jacob Pavia's got another year in him, right?
Yeah,
he
won his
Yeah.
case.
So I'm getting some Diego Pavia merch.
you will.
There's no way I'm not. But the Cats came back. They were down 14 by half. UK, that is. And
I'm gonna say I showed up to B-Dubs and they were down 15 at half, and I was like, oh, okay. And then I got my food and I looked up and it was a tie ball game.
yeah,
I was like, where did this happen?
yeah. Well, that UK offense can flip a switch just as easily either way. But Jason Edwards, Vandy, dog, 18 points. Mark Byington, though, the coach from JMU, has Vandy back on the map. I truly do believe that, and I hope he stays there for a while because I think he can build something truly special. AJ Haggard?
Yes.
Hogard. It's Hogard, right?
Okay.
Played for Michigan State last year.
Yes, Hogard.
Hogard. Forgot he went there. I knew he went like somewhere in the SEC, and I thought it was Missouri for some reason, and then I found out that's where he went. He didn't do anything special, but I just forgot that's where he ended up.
And the one game I did want to mention also in the SEC, not to cut you off, was Texas beating Texas A&M.
Yeah, that was not only an upset, that was an incredible comeback.
It also almost became a fight.
It sure did.
Their coach going through the handshake line, which, by the way, I'm Team Patino. No more handshakes after the game. Not needed. Dap up before the game, cool. After the game, go to the sidelines. It's not needed. If players want to meet and dap up because they're friends or they play together in AAU ball or something like that, cool. But you don't need to make a mandatory handshake line because of a situation like this that almost occurred. So that Texas coach was Mr. Abbott. Don't do the horns down. It's disrespectful. Blah blah blah.
Oh,
but as
yeah.
he's
I forgot
going
he's
through
such a
that
bum.
he's going through that Texas A&M line, and he's just f this, f that. We're back. Blah blah blah. Just hyping up the crowd like crazy. If I would have been a Texas A&M player, I would have just cold cocked him right there, just straight to the face. I would not have cared about the suspension or anything that else would have came up of it. But if you're going to complain and you're going to moan about everybody in the SEC and the horns down, don't be doing it back.
Exactly.
You're one way or another. And so I want to say the coach's name's last name's
It's like Terry, like Rodney Terry,
Rod-
maybe.
Yeah. He's a bum.
He
Absolute
is.
bum.
He is, but he's not a bum. Trey Johnson with a 30 bomb. He's my candidate for freshman of the year. I gave him a little shout out earlier the first week, and he's definitely lived up to that, averaging 18.8 on the year.
And congratulations to Xavier upsetting UConn at home, 76-72.
Another upset quad one. Hey, this team, 13-8, 5-5. They got 2 games against Creighton. They got to win both of those. They got to win most of their games to finish out the season, but there's a path.
Sean Miller hyped up that crowd. I didn't get to watch it or anything, but he said it was.
I did miss that one.
It was old school Xavier Cintas Center. Nobody wants to play there. So congrats to that team who lost that UC game and then said, okay, now we're going to flip the season around. We're going to be better. Like you said, 5-5, and some winnable games coming up, but also some tough ones. They win the games. Maybe they'll be the Cincinnati team dancing while the rest of us are all watching at home.
Well, some other scores to wrap up, and stop me if you have something to say here. Minnesota with another upset win, defeating number 15 Oregon 77-69. Not that Minnesota really has any tournament aspirations. You mentioned Xavier. Missouri, number 23, gets a win over Ole Miss, number 16. Slip in there. 83-75 in Columbia. And then K-State twists the knife for that West Virginia team, struggling 73-60. They never had a chance throughout that game. K-State was far ahead. They got number 9 Houston at home on Wednesday. If they want to turn their season around, I mean, not that it's over, but it's a really good way to get back on the schneid, you know?
Absolutely. And I know we got the director in our ear telling us we need to speed up and move on, but I'm going to go ahead.
I don't want to talk about football, NFL anyway.
Yeah,
so.
I'm going to go ahead. Is there any games during the week you want to pinpoint? Because I need to talk about Saturday.
Yeah, let me go through these week games,
Okay.
and I'll let you take Saturday. Tuesday, number 12 UK makes a trip to Knoxville. Might be a pretty interesting game. Number 8 Tennessee. That is 7 o'clock on ESPN. Wake Forest, number 21 Louisville. That's a sneaky game in the ACC. Wake Forest gave Duke a good fight, and I think they'll give Louisville one as well. Oklahoma looks to return to the national radar that night as well at number 13 Texas A&M. That is 9 on SEC. If I didn't say it, 7 p.m. on ACC is that Wake Forest Louisville game. Wednesday, West Virginia, we just mentioned, tries to stop the skid versus number 6 Houston. That's on ESPN Plus at 7. Maryland hosts number 17 Wisconsin at 7 on Big Ten Network. Maryland could very well jump in the top 25 with a win this week, especially right here. Number 14 Mississippi State hosts the buzzsaw that is number 4 Alabama right now. That's at 9 on SEC Network. And a hot Texas team, like them or not, travels to number 23 Ole Miss, who's looking to stop that streak. That is at 9 p.m. on ESPN2. Thursday, number 16 Oregon looks to bounce back on the road at UCLA. And then finally, Purdue, number 10, host Indiana at 8 p.m. on Fox. Gus Johnson better be on that call, just like he was last Friday at 8 p.m. So, oh my gosh, I just might cry thinking about it while you're giving me this beautiful Saturday lineup.
Absolutely stacked top to bottom from noon until basically 10 o'clock. We got noon tip-off, Florida at Tennessee. Not only a rivalry in football, but it's a rivalry in basketball. Very good one, 2 top 10 ranked teams. You got Missouri and Mississippi State, 2 teams you don't think about basketball. Both also ranked. Auburn, Ole Miss. Old Miss trying to get right and get that win.
Massachusetts.
Get that win over Auburn. Kansas State, Iowa State. Kansas State's sitting at 2-6, but they're sneaky still. They're a tough team. Maybe that's just a UC fan of me still upset we lost to them. Wisconsin, Northwestern, okay. But Vanderbilt got Oklahoma. Big game there. I know you shake your head about Oklahoma, but Oklahoma's still trying to...
I was shaking about the fact you said Oakland.
Yeah, well, sometimes the words are hard, all right? Georgia, Alabama, we talked about it. Georgia needs to start getting some of these SEC wins. Alabama's a tough one to get on the road. Kansas, Baylor. Baylor needs to make a statement. They're not the team that we thought they were in the beginning of the year. Kansas needs to get right. Michigan State, USC. USC's got UCLA tonight, I believe. And then Michigan State is a very, very good team.
Traveling to USC, though.
Correct. Tom Izzo, though, he's got those boys ready to play at 8-0 in conference. Texas Tech, Houston, defense in that one. And then, of course, at 6:30, North Carolina, Duke. Don't feel good about that one. Don't want to talk about it. Just going to cross my fingers and hope they can pull out a W.
I'm rooting for you guys, as I always do. But
and then wrapping up the night on Fox, you got UConn Marquette top 25 matchup. And then the game that...
Okay, you said wrapping up. I was like, hold up.
And then the game everybody's going to be watching. Arkansas and Coach Cal go to Lexington and take on number 12 Kentucky. Boy, oh boy, if everybody thought the environment was crazy when Georgetown's coach, I can't think of his name right now, returned back to Providence, and they let the Providence students in for warm-ups like 75 minutes before the tip, and literally the entire time they were just chanting the coach's name, F you.
Ed Cooley, right?
Ed Cooley, yeah. F you, Cooley, you suck, Cooley. Like, it was hostile. That ain't going to have nothing on this Kentucky crowd when Coach Cal gets announced. And I can't wait for Arkansas to pull the upset.
Ooh, okay.
I said this on Beyond the Score, Josh. It's a big game, you would say, right?
Yes, very big game.
And Coach Calipari is coaching in that big game.
Yes, you're right.
Why would you bet on Coach Calipari to win in a big game?
Because I'm a villain and I'm cheering for the team. Dude, I don't think you realize.
I really hate to say it. I'm rooting for UK. Screw Calipari.
Nah,
Dude's a bum.
I wanted Calipari to win the national championship this year, to be honest with you. I wanted the most karma thing in the world to these Kentucky fans. But you know what? They got it right. They got the better coach, it looks
sure
like.
Did.
But it is also 1 year. Let's see what Coach Cal can do if maybe he gets more of his players in, because it's not like he got all of them. Let's see what happens when he gets the NIL figured out, and let's see what happens when Pope
Figured
has
out.
to
He's
do
had
his
like
thing.
3 years to.
True, but I mean, like at Arkansas, it could be a little bit different how they're all spending their money,
Perhaps.
and so on and so forth. So
I will give.
but I will definitely be tuning in to that one after probably drinking some tears away because North Carolina loses.
I will give a shout out to the Sunday matchup, Ohio State, Illinois, number 18. That's good. Another good game for Ohio State to add to their resume if they can get the win there. Because they may not have the best record, but their resume does look pretty nice. So, I guess obviously no trivia question. Apparently that segment's dead thanks to college basketball. But what?
I've got it ready.
Yeah, do we have the time?
To be fair, if we can cut off.
We got 2 games to talk about, fellas.
We do have 2 games.
2 games
we got
and
some,
1 to preview.
We got coach changes though.
True.
What did we not get a chance to talk about last week? Because we talked about Ben Johnson and what's his
I think
name,
we
right?
talked about all of them.
There was another one this week.
There's
wasn't
been-
there?
There's
this
been
week.
some
Pete
new
Carroll.
ones.
Yeah,
There we
there was
go.
that Pete Carroll one.
Also, Brian
That's the-
Schottenheimer for the Cowboys.
Oh yeah, that one too.
That
so
one's irrelevant.
there's. Hey, Jerry doesn't seem to think so.
Yeah, well, Jerry's going to be
I've
firing
been
him
doing
next year,
this my
too.
whole life.
Colton, there's a reason they call it Jerry's Worlds because he's the only one living in it.
That's fantastic. And was that off the top of your head?
Yeah.
Or have you heard that from somebody before?
I've never heard that.
I am stealing that.
Stolen. You have witnessed the stealing on this
But
podcast.
the Pete Carroll hire, I do actually want to talk about that. As a person who has always despised Pete Carroll when he was at USC, but then became a fan of him when he got to Seattle, I think that's a great hire for a young team who's trying to change the culture in Las Vegas. It's been looked down upon, and Pete Carroll is just a good hire to maybe, I don't know who he's going to hire as an offense coordinator, who's going to hire as a defense coordinator, but maybe get a young guy in there to learn under Pete. And then when Pete retires in 3 years, because this isn't obviously a 10-year job for Pete Carroll.
Of course.
He's like, I think he's like 70-something years old now.
He's the
Yep.
oldest head coach.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's a very short tenure. But you get a young name in there. I had heard the name maybe Bobby Swistic, who the Texans just let go. You maybe bring him in, let him learn under Pete Carroll, get a fresh start, get a new quarterback in there who's actually a quarterback, and let's see what happens.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a great hire. I think it's a culture builder for sure. And if he's done being the coach, maybe Tom Brady brings him up in a management position or something to keep things going. And yeah, I really like the hire. Kind of completely out of left field, right? There was no real rumors around
I'm going
it.
to say I never heard any rumors or heard anybody mention his name.
Yeah.
I know they really wanted Ben Johnson.
Yeah.
But I'm going to throw it to Garrett real quickly. Garrett, obviously, Pete Carroll's probably got a special place in your heart. Brought you a Super Bowl, brought you a second appearance, should have ran the ball. What's your
Shoulda ran
thoughts
the
on him
ball.
going to the Raiders?
I will say, I will be honest, I really wasn't like a super diehard Seahawks fan at the time that they made those Super Bowl runs, but I appreciated.
Sounds like a very Garrett thing to do.
Like, yes, like,
So you're the
I was 14 years old and didn't know what the hell I wanted to do with my life. Okay,
How
but
dare you?
but
dare.
yeah, no, I was able to respect greatness when I saw it. Right.
Yeah.
So Pete Carroll is one of those all-time head coaches. I don't know where he ranks as far as like head coaching Hall of Fame, but I would say
He'd
he's
be higher if he
probably.
ran.
I'd say he's probably got a spot somewhere, in one of the Hall of Fames.
I mean, I might give it a hot take, but I think he's a top 10 coach of the game of football of all time. He's won national championships and he's won Super Bowls.
I would-
Only 2 other coaches, I think, in NFL and college football history can say that. So, I mean, that puts him on a pedestal. And those USC teams, whether they were paying the players or not, were unbelievable, man. Matt Leinart, Reggie Bush, Lendell White. I want to say it was Mike Williams as a wide receiver there. Ray Maluga, like that Brian Cushing, Clay Matthews. I can go on and on about those teams. I hated them, and I hated that chomping. But once he got to Seattle, I love Pete Carroll, and I would love to play for him. So it's one of those things. As you get older, you learn to respect players.
Yeah, I mean,
Or
you
coaches.
know what that tells me is that he has an eye for talent. You know what the
does.
Raiders could use right about now? An eye for talent. So, you know what the Bengals could use right about now? An eye for talent. Pete Carroll, please, you should just get out of that contract. And but no, I'm just kidding. Anyways, so that was all the ones.
Yeah, the
the
Saints
Cowboys is
still-
a non-factor. I think there's a world where that works out for them.
No.
Okay.
No. I think they're literally hiring another coach next year.
Okay.
Yeah, this feels like a very stopgap move to me.
Yeah.
I would care to agree with that, but you never know.
No, you never know. Who knows?
never know.
Schottenheimer may make
Who
this
would've-
team 14-3 next year. Probably not going to happen, but who knows?
Who would have thunk it? Is it time?
Yeah.
Well, let's start with we don't want to rip the Band-Aid off, right? We want to,
No. Go in order the way the games are played.
of course. So there was football played yesterday.
Correct.
The first game, you could debate whether Thank you. Thank you for saying correct and then doing that.
I just remembered we had sound effects. I don't get to use them.
Yeah. You know, you feel free to use the sound effects whenever. I beg you. You know, bring a little color to the show. Anywho, the Eagles played against the Commanders. You could debate whether that was a real football game or not, but anyways, 55-23, right?
Yeah.
The Commanders had a chance till the end of the third. Yeah, end of the third. And then they didn't. And then 3 runs in the fourth quarter, rushing touchdowns, for the Eagles.
Something like that.
7 on the game, guys.
7. That is the most since 1950 something. Back when if you this is an Alex stat that an Alex saying back when if you threw the ball, you went to jail. Forward lateral.
First off, they scored 8 touchdowns in the NFC Championship game. 7 of them on the ground.
It's almost like the Commanders' defense wasn't that good.
They were missing a few pieces, I will say. But I would agree. The Commanders' defense wasn't as good as what everybody thought. But it's also, they're just playing. This is a train. This team that can just run the football, control the clock. But even if it's not control the clock, it's just breakaway. First play from scrimmage. Saquon Barkley, 60 yards to the house, making everybody on DraftKings 27 freaking bucks if you picked them to score the game. Dude, they're so darn good. They are so good. And they're doing it in ways that is not seen in 2025 because they want to bring back that smash mouth football style of we're going to hit you in the mouth on defense and we're going to run.
And if that's not working, guess what? They got A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. Hurts is a capable thrower.
Dallas Goedert also.
Dallas Goedert, my apologies.
Yeah. But I saw somebody point that out, and that's what I want to kind of bring up because I feel like something is getting skipped over. People will talk about, okay, well, the Eagles can do it. Why can't the Bengals? They spent money on offense. Hurts is paid. Brown is paid, Goddard's paid, Barkley's paid, and 3 offensive linemen are like the top 3 offensive line pays at their position.
Yep, not to mention defense.
Defense, though, it's young, talented players they're hitting on in the draft. I get we should be talking about this game, but it was something I saw that kind of.
No, I think the most important
the difference is the
takeaways.
Bengals aren't hitting on that.
I think the most important takeaways, and I'm sorry to have cut you off. The takeaways are more so like what strategy is working for, spoiler alert, the Chiefs won too, Chiefs and Eagles, as opposed to what's not working for not necessarily the Commanders, but the Bills or other teams that
Bills,
are
Ravens,
struggling.
Bills, Ravens, Bengals.
Yeah.
These are the 3 teams that are supposed to be, quote unquote, stopping the dynasty, and they're the ones that are allowing it to happen. We joked about it before the show, but it is literally Josh Allen is always beating Lamar. Lamar is always beating Joe. Joe is always beating Josh. And Mahomes is just taking care of all of them, but it's because of what they're building around them. It's not just Patrick Mahomes going out there with Travis Kelce anymore. It's going out there with Chris Jones dominating. I want to say it's Nick Bolton, but he might be
It's Bolton.
Nick Bolton, George Karlaftis, all those guys. Trent McDuffie.
Don't
Correct.
remind me
They're hitting draft picks, and these other teams are not.
But like to your point, that's the formula that the Eagles have seemed to replicate.
Correct.
On defense.
I will give them a shout out. Zach Bond.
Yes.
They got
Great
him
story.
via free agency, I believe, this year, via the Saints. 12 tackles, 8 solo, and a tackle for loss yesterday. Has been putting up numbers very quietly all year to the point where he's one of the top 5 defensive players of the year. And last I checked, he's the only one still playing, so maybe he should be defensive player of the year.
You know the
That's a
story.
great point.
You know the story around him, right?
I do not.
Good.
For the first 5 years of his career in the NFL, he was a primarily special teams guy. This is his first year starting on defense.
Wow.
With New Orleans, though, right? I'm not.
Yeah,
confused
no,
at all.
with New Orleans. Yeah.
So the Saints couldn't see his talent.
Shocker. they would never miss talent or anything like that. Yeah, I don't think there's really much else to really get from that Eagles Commanders game.
I mean, that's the thing. Go ahead. Okay.
I was gonna say the takeaway I had from this game is that yes, it was a blowout, but I think part of the reason the blowout happened was because not counting the garbage interception that Daniels had at the very end of that game, the Commanders had 3 turnovers in that game.
Yeah.
Including that, or not including that last interception. So.
One very key one early when they
Yes.
were down 7-3. Charging down the field could have made it 10-7. That turns into 14-3, or at least 10-3.
in my group chat, we were talking about it, and it was a difference of a team that's been there and a team that hasn't.
Hey, that's what I was saying, wasn't it, Garrett?
Yep.
This Commanders team just hadn't had a big experience like this, and this is something you build on. You get a player or two this offseason, and you can be right back in there.
I mean,
because Daniels is that dude.
You have the core.
Absolutely.
You have the core to build around. It was just those mistakes. But I expect the Commanders to be here for at least the next few years. They look pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, we saw with Joe Burrow that some people came over. Maybe they weren't as talented as we thought they were when we picked them up, but it attracts talent having a quarterback like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we always have to bring it back to the Bengals, don't we?
Naturally.
I don't think there's anything else we can push this
So
any
the
further.
Chiefs beat the Bills 32-29. Another amazing game between both these teams. You have to give credit to the Chiefs, man. I mean, we can keep trying to fight it all we want. It's funny, like every week it was the Chiefs eventually got to lose. The Chiefs eventually got to lose, and I kept telling you guys, no, they don't. Like they don't. And the thing is, they don't. They went again.
23-2 since last Christmas, I believe.
That is insane.
I wouldn't be able to back you up and butterknife those stats, but it sounds right.
No, yeah, that's
that's correct.
That's correct.
I mean, the last time they lost a playoff game was to Joe Burrow.
Damn.
And think about how long the Super Bowl was. That's the last time they lost a playoff game. They're going to their 5th Super Bowl in 6 years. And if it wasn't for Joe Burrow, it would be 6-6. This dynasty, honest God, is better than the Patriots dynasty if they get the job done on the next Sunday.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I think after this Super Bowl, it's Mahomes or Brady, and that's your GOAT conversation. There's nobody else in it.
Yeah, I have no argument on
and
that.
if Mahomes ties Brady, give me Mahomes because he did it much faster. He did it much more dominance, and with worse teams. So, I mean, can you imagine if Patrick Mahomes had Randy Moss, even though it wasn't prime, but still in that?
Yeah, but he had Travis Kelce in his prime, and Travis Kelce always the greatest tight end.
He
of all
doesn't
time.
have him in his prime now, and he's just fine.
Correct. He also had Cheetah in his prime before
He did,
went
but he
off the deep
hasn't
end.
for the last two.
True. I mean, you're right. You're right.
Who's his top receiver this year? Xavier Worthy?
This year, Xavier Worthy, Mr. 8 catches, 101 yards, and a touchdown, I believe.
Yeah.
How was that during the regular
How
season?
did they get Xavier?
That's a rookie though.
How did they get Xavier Worthy again?
There's this thing called the draft.
Yeah, and how did
Yeah,
they?
but how did they get that pick? Yeah,
happened to him again.
It's all coming back full circle.
We called it. I literally went back and I watched the draft episode, and Colton, me and you at the same time said they did it again. Because Garrett didn't know about the trade and Ben didn't know about the trade. And me and Colton literally were like, the Bills traded them that pick. And the Bills did it again. And then Xavier Worthy absolutely just torched their secondary last night. Unbelievable game.
Man down.
I would like to make some points about the Bills before we end it, because you can say all you want about the refs or whatnot. They certainly played an effect in this game. There was some missed calls, sure, but at the end of the day, the Bills had the ball, 3 minutes to go, game-winning drive, right? And I'm sorry, Garrett, I don't know what the hell Joe Brady is doing up there. I don't. Ty Johnson, first play of the drive, sorry, a run for Ty Johnson. Your third string running back. Ray Davis, at least. But you also have this guy named James Cook. Let him cook, please. And I'm not saying that sarcastically, please.
You mean 13 carries, 85 yards, and 2 touchdowns?
Yeah, that
James?
guy. What, 6.5 yards per carry?
Yeah.
If he gets half of that, 3 yards, okay. So we get that first down after Ty Johnson's stupid run. And then we pass the ball with Josh Allen. Now it's 2nd and 10. We pass the ball with Josh Allen. Now it's 3rd and 10. We do a quick little screen pass or whatever. Now it's 4th and 5. Guess what? What happens if you maybe run James Cook once? Maybe he only gets 3 yards. Okay, now it's 2nd and 7. We do a pass. It's incomplete again. 3rd and 7. Well, we do that little screen pass to get it closer. All right, 4th and 2. That's just a hair more manageable than 4th and 5.
Well, they couldn't get 4th and 1s all freaking game long.
This is true. This is true.
What is that QB sneak?
I was thinking the same thing. I think it is the most disgusting play I've ever seen. I blame the Eagles for
Method of doing things. Like
it's
the Eagles,
not.
The fact, okay, I get it.
It worked last week.
I didn't play football at a high level, like extremely high level. I played it through high school. I coached a little bit, blah, blah, blah. But the whole point of QB sneaks is just to get your offensive line moving forward and get your quarterback moving forward as quickly as possible. That's the goal of that play.
Right.
The Bills' logic was take a step back, take a shuffle to the left, and then go forward. By that time, Chris Jones is going to be blowing that thing up. And then Romo and Nance specifically said the Chiefs have seen this play called all year and they knew what was coming. So they would stack that side.
Yeah,
why would Josh Allen not just go audible, go to the right?
if you're going to have an unstoppable play, make sure it's unstoppable. Like, if you're going to have this play that you go to, your go-to play on fourth down, make sure it works. Like, it didn't work throughout the game. They just kept going to, and that's another issue I have with Joe Brady. I think the Saints dodged a bullet. I'm sorry, Garrett. I don't think he's that great of a play caller. And I think it showed kind of throughout the game, because before that drive, I was complaining, why aren't we giving Josh Allen some passes? Why are we just running the ball? Let's diversify. A balance. You know what the Chiefs do? They have a balance of things. And that's just a simple concept that Joe Brady needs to get in his head. And I think that was really the difference of this game, was the reliance on the run.
So they threw 34 times and they ran 32.
I'm not referring to the statistical.
Okay.
I'm referring to just the time of the game. It seemed like that fourth quarter, a lot of running, and then we flipped the switch to just passing.
To me, the play calling on that last drive in the fourth quarter, when you got 3 minutes in the game and you're down by 3, the play calling to me felt a lot like you were being chased by a ghost or something, right? It's just like, it felt like desperate play calling when desperation wasn't needed, because you had 3 minutes. And I can't remember how many timeouts they had at that time, but I know they had some.
They had 3, because they had 3 going into the Chiefs drive.
3 minutes, all 3 of your timeouts, and you're only down by 3. So I feel like you could have worked that drive a little bit better and not resorted to some of those wacky pass plays.
Absolutely. And I will even add, on that final play,
I knew this was coming. I tried to get Garrett to play the video. We couldn't get it up in time.
Why in the hell is Khalil Shakir behind Josh Allen, your best wide receiver? Your best wide receiver.
So it's to set up a play that you're usually supposed to throw it out to Shakir, and Shakir beats the guy to the line. It looks like the Chiefs kind of read it a little bit, and they were able to collapse down on it. But it also doesn't help that Josh had to run completely opposite direction.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but is that not the play that Ohio State used in the national championship game, where they pulled Jeremiah Smith and then immediately turned him around and went towards the pylon?
Yes, who learned it from Nick Saban and that group. So yeah, no, it's become a very common play. I don't like that play in that situation with your best wide receiver, unless the ball is going to him.
I think you at least need to be able to draw defenders away from. I mean, still, it was a great route by Dalton Kincaid, an outstanding pass from Josh Allen. Let's be honest here. Like, he had that. It was a catchable pass, and how that was a catchable pass, I don't know. I still don't blame Dalton Kincaid for missing that.
Yeah, no, and we talked about it before show.
The internet certainly is.
The internet is absolutely. Allen came out today and said it needs to be knocked off. Stop threatening Kincaid, all this, and which, by the way, we need to stop doing.
Just in general.
What are we threatening people's lives over a game?
I don't know. There was some Chiefs fans that I maybe thought about it, but
But I mean, when it's all said and done, it's a game, man. It's an absolute game. Because
and that's,
what's funny,
that's the conclusion I came to.
I was talking to somebody last night, and I was like, I know I'm getting upset about this game because the Chiefs are getting there again, the Eagles are getting there again. This is Super Bowl I did not want to watch, and I was literally feeling myself get angry, and I'm just like, I wish I did not care about this damn sport as much as I do, but I just love this game so damn much.
I thought exactly.
And it's jealousy. The truth is, it's jealous.
Yeah.
This is what the Bengals thought they were going to be when we had this team getting built, and it was a one-year fluke as of right now, and there's no other way to describe it.
1.5. We made it to the conference championship.
That's fair. So, all right, 2-minute warning time. We'll talk about the Bills. We got plenty of time this off season. So, first question, is Saquon Barkley having the best running back season of all time? Colton, I know your answer, but go ahead.
Yes.
Garrett, do you have a take?
I would be inclined to say so. Again, I'm not that old, so I haven't seen very many like great running backs of the past era. I haven't seen very many Barry Sanders, but I would be inclined to say Saquon is, yeah.
I'm going to say, I know of all time, Terrell Davis is the only one who has more yards than him combined postseason and regular season. But I will say the LaDainian Tomlinson record-breaking touchdown season will always hold a special place in my heart, so I will say no just yet.
If he's not one, he's two.
Yes, I would agree with that. Will the Bills be back here next year? No.
No.
Garrett?
Yes.
Save the graphic as
And
always.
will the Commanders be back here next year? No.
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 Ah.
I can't save the graphic this time.
No saving the graphic this time. And then
Last but not least, I will add one. Obviously, as Colton mentioned, the Clash is this weekend. So, Colton, who is your winner to win the Clash?
So we're going to a new track that people are excited to see how it races. Probably Joey Logano.
All I see is Bowman Gray Stadium. I'm taking Alex Bowman.
Yeah. Garrett?
Give me Austin Cindric.
All right. You know who that is. That's awesome. Thank you all for listening. I hope you did enjoy. Man, it's hard to just smile these days, you know? It really is tough times. Can't wait to have to talk. The worst part about it is that we have that week off. So there's a whole 2-week span. We got to listen about this Eagles and Chiefs matchup. But oh well, here we go. Follow us on Twitter at NorseBWPod or X, whatever you want to call it. Check us out on Apple and Spotify podcasts at the Norse Benchwarmers. Thank you both for coming on the show. Garrett, your hard work over in the director's chair, and Josh as a producer. And thank you, Bill and NKU Media Services, for all that you do, making this show better each and every week. Yeah, we'll see you all in the next one. Peace